Staff meeting Tuesday, May 13th. Got a couple things we're going to discuss, I believe. Manager Stoltz, take it away.
We actually had three, but Nicole is going to need a little bit more time on the web redesign update. So we'll calendar that into the future. But that leaves us two items for today. One is, and we talk about this every year or two, is the noise ordinance. The county does not have a noise ordinance today. Commissioners routinely get, all of you routinely get complaints at one time or another about noise in the county. Where city meets county, there's two different cultures. So we'll talk about, Armand is going to lead us through a discussion on kind of the history of noise ordinance and where we set today. And then the second item will be solid waste operations. And Susan, I see, is here to talk about that. So Armand, you are up first.
Okay, great. Armand, welcome. Appreciate you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Armand Shukayev, Assistant County Councilor. So I guess it's this time of the year to talk about noise resolution. I'm going to go over a general overview first to bring everyone up to speed, and then kind of talk what other municipalities and both cities and county sides do, and give some options here for discussion. So currently, there's not county-wide resolution for the unincorporated area of Sedgwick County that would generally prohibit loud noises. There are some specific sections of the county code that addresses certain types of noise. An example of that would be the animal code, where a continuous barking by a dog may be considered as a violation of the code, and a person can be cited with a nuisance animal violation. There is a disorderly conduct charge that can be charged for violations occurring at MS Mitchell Floodway, aka Big Ditch. Those would be situations where an individual engaging in the use of very loud combination of obscene and fighting words and incite someone towards violence or something like that, that can create a charge, but it can be tangentially related to being noisy. And then there are some things that the commissioners can do through zoning actions, such as based on certain restrictions. That being said, as I said, no county-wide general prohibition on noises. So what do other municipalities do? I've looked at a few. That would be for the city sides. I looked at City of Wichita, I looked at Mays, Topeka, the Unified Government of Wyandotte County in Kansas City, Kansas, and Dodge City. I'm gonna go briefly over all of them in a moment. On the county side, I looked at Shawnee County, Johnson County, and Atchison County. If I had to categorize the approaches that municipalities and counties take to tackle noise complaints, there are two methods that are being used. One is more popular than the other, and I'll reveal that intriguing part in the last bit of my presentation. So there's a method where a county can use mechanical instruments to determine decibels at a known distance. So it's basically a measurable criteria, such as decibels measured from a neighboring property, or 75 feet, or 50 feet, or 100 feet. In those situations, a county establishes a certain decibel threshold. There's not a uniform threshold. Different counties establish different thresholds, and then use instruments to determine whether the emanating noise is above that threshold or not. Now, the pros of that is that you get a measurable noise level. The negative side of that is that it would require training, the equipment, cost of maintenance, and there's a good chance that it would invite basically the same standards as a LiDAR radar for maintenance and enforcement. So you would need to have someone who knows how to operate it. The instruments would have to be probably certified, tested on every single morning to make sure that it's properly operational, and then you would get challenges that may involve the requirement to bring an expert witness on usage of sound measuring apparatuses. Other considerations for that would also include who would be using this equipment, whether it's someone from MABCD staff or someone from the sheriff's office. As commissioners are well aware, a lot of the noise complaints come on weekends and at nights when MABCD typically is not operating during non-business hours. So this may fall on the sheriff to enforce. There's also going to be a necessity to have exceptions carved out. Those will be an example, an agricultural exception for agricultural activities, industrial businesses, industrial and commercial activities conducted with inconsistency with prior zoning approvals, discharge of firearms, trains, airplanes, just to name a few. This is a non-exhaustive list. The other method is the reasonableness standard. Basically, the zoning or the noise ordinance would have some variation of language, something to the effect that it would generally prohibit unusual or loud or excessive noise, which creates a nuisance or interference with enjoyment of property of any person of reasonable sensibilities residing in or occupying the area. Now, the reasonable sensibility is very important here because that's the objective standard that the Kansas Supreme Court upheld. So these types of noise ordinance have been tested by courts and withstand the mustard of time. Most cities and counties do use the reasonableness approach. So you have some sort of combination of language that involves either a distance and a reasonable individual, or just a reasonable individual of reasonable sensibilities residing in the neighboring property without a distance involved. To go over now the particulars, City of Wichita utilizes the reasonableness approach as the primary method of enforcement. Now, they do have the use of measurement instruments embedded in their ordinances, but that is used primarily as a defense to the charge of noise violation. So like an individual can, at their own expense, go hire someone, do the decibel measurement from their property and try to disprove that they were in violation of the noise ordinance. Mays is utilizing language very similar to that of City of Wichita. Topeka is using the reasonableness approach as well. Difference between City of Wichita and Topeka is that Topeka has a more gradient criteria of what a person can look at or what a court can look at when determining whether noise violation occurs. Unified Government of Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas, they use the reasonableness approach. Dodge City uses both the reasonableness approach and the use of technical instruments. So they have both, but the reasonableness part almost verbatim copies that of that Kansas Supreme Court decision. Counties, Shawnee County doesn't have a general noise ordinance. They do have specific ordinance that limits the use of fireworks as it applicable to noise, and also they have a barking resolution. Johnson County doesn't have a general noise ordinance. They have some code specific provisions pertaining to entertainment establishments and commercial uses of properties and limitations on sounds and lights for those. Atchison County has a noise resolution. The language closely resembles the reasonableness standard, but that resolution has been done prior to the Kansas Supreme Court decision. In conclusion, even without Sedgwick County noise resolution, private property owners can also bring their own private civil actions against their neighbor for loud noise, and they have potentially more options to enforce through a civil remedy rather than resolution enforcement. If the county does go if the commissioners do look into creating a county-wide resolution that would address excessive noises, the reasonableness approach is probably the better of the two for multiple reasons. Reason number one, it is doesn't require you to spend additional money on equipment or training. Reason number two is the language can be modeled similar to that after the Kansas Supreme Court decision. So we have evidence that this language has withstood muster of the courts. And reason number three, it would be more expeditious in terms of enforcement rather than having the necessity to have the equipment and they're ready and walk around with it. Now, that being said, there are a few cons to the reasonable approach as well that do require mentioning. It does require the county to gather more evidence to support a continued violation. It would also require that the complaining party potentially be in the position to provide additional evidence to the county. The reason why I'm saying this is because if an individual makes a complaint, and let's say it's complaint-driven noise resolution, individual makes a complaint about a noise. By the time the county enforcement, whether it's sheriff, MABCD, arrives, that noise may have ceased to exist. So it would be something that would have to be captured on either a camera or a phone or audio recording, and the individual would have to provide a description of what had occurred, where they were, what they were doing, how they heard this noise, for how long this noise been there. Ideally, the such noise ordinance enforcement would involve the officer, whether it's an MABCD enforcement officer or sheriff's office deputy, go out to the property and listen for a period of time whether this noise is there, and if it's there, have it recorded, whether on through Axon or some other recording measurements. Took notes where they were standing, how far they were standing, all that stuff. So it does require more evidence to prove rather than simply pointing a device at a distance and saying, oh, it's 60 decibels and we permitted 55. With that said, I am here for any questions that you may have.
Okay, I appreciate all the research that's gone into this and the presentation. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Chairman. Just, and thanks for the update. If the sheriff or MABCD or whatever went out there and they used a reasonable approach, let's just say, who receives the citation? Is it the property owner, or is it let's say there's 4 or 5 people there and there's music playing or whatever it is, there's some activity going on. Who is going to get the citation?
I think you can word the resolution to cover anyone who occupies the property. It can be the property owner, it can be a property occupant. So you don't have to search a specific owner who may not reside in Sedgwick County but may own the property. It's the person who's there who may be chargeable for the offense.
Okay. What happens if the noise is very short duration? Let's say it's fireworks going off at midnight someday, or and it was over in 1 minute or so. Then what do you do in that case?
And that's a fair point. This is why the court is using what is known as a reasonable person standard. It's a mythical, hypothetical, reasonable individual who resides in society in similar circumstances, who would perceive a noise in a similar manner as the complaining witness and would see it as a nuisance under similar circumstances. And so the court basically invents this individual in their minds, and they go through the facts as they are presented to make a determination whether this hypothetical individual would find this noise loud or continuous or disturbing enough to interfere with enjoyment of their property.
That's not our standard today in Sedgwick County.
Well, we don't have, right now, we don't have a county-wide resolution, correct, Commissioner, for the dog barking, for example, it kind of would use the same concept because it has to be continuous in nature. So that's one of the factors that we look at.
Are those terms defined somehow? I mean, someone says continuous barking. How do you, are these things defined some way that people knows what that means?
They're not specifically defined. It's in the eyes of the fact finder, meaning the judge, to make a determination whether something is excessive or not.
Okay, so this is, the problem I see with the reasonable approach is it's very subjective. It's in the opinion of someone. I think it's too much, and I'm gonna, provide a citation in this case. And so it's a very subjective assessment, I guess. And then there's also a very difficult way to document the severity of the situation, if you will. So again, I don't know, to me, the reasonableness, unless it's egregious, it may be very difficult to know when you've approached some threshold of this is okay, but now it's not okay. It's very difficult to define that if you don't have a objective way to do so.
And to your point, Commissioner, some municipalities went and added an additional factor, while on its own is probably not enough to overcome what you're talking about, because it is true that the subjective part has been the primary attack of the attack on the noise ordinances in the state of Kansas. And whenever the language that whenever a municipality would create a resolution or an ordinance that didn't have the reasonableness component in it, all other words such as loud, excessive, continuous, those are subjective words, true, and they can be considered as vague at times. And therefore, certain ordinances, certain resolutions historically have been found unconstitutionally vague. Reasonableness brings us to objective standards. Some counties and municipalities went above that and also included like a distance measurement. So if a person would hear from a certain distance this noise, then the court has another factor to look at to determine whether a reasonable person would find the noise to be excessive because it was heard from a certain distance. On its own, doesn't fix the situation, but with combination of the reasonable person standard, that is something that can be added to bolster the resolution if commissioners so wish.
A while back, we had a zoning case where I tried to say some distance from the property line. I had to, have to define basically where you're measuring from, or I should say at the property line, that there was an objective measurement. And we had a big debate about whether or not that was something that could be enforced. And again, my intent was not to enforce it, but my intent was to give them civil opportunity. If there's a conflict, they could hire a sound engineer to measure that and create, if you will, an argument for or against the violation and let them deal with this in civil court. But to me, that was a way to, essentially allow them to deal with conflict as it might happen. I think one of the bigger topics today is about event centers. Some of these event centers have activities go till midnight, sometimes weekdays, not necessarily Friday, but maybe a Tuesday or a Thursday or something, and they go till very late in the night. And there's a lot of thoughts about whether it's too loud or not. In fact, I've had an ongoing issue with Club Rodeo, not saying it's been a problem in my personal opinion, but some of the people in the area have complained, and they've complained for a very long time. And I've tried to approach that objectively, and I don't think that they are correct in their personal opinion. I think is not justified. When I went out and actually experienced and even measured the sound levels, it was not what they said it was. And so, to me, the idea of a party atmosphere or an event center where there's neighbors nearby, that to me, again, having someone who is living close to that, to me, it necessitates maybe some additional standard by which that's something that maybe could be dealt with. Where in most cases, I don't think that's the situation. So the problem is if we pass something here or did something, for the county, it doesn't necessarily mean if there's no neighbor within a mile that has the same, we would potentially have the same standard in that situation, where I don't think it's a problem in that case. And I think there's also problems with people doing activities like four-wheelers and firing guns on their own property very reasonably, using county freedom that they have. And it could be Saturday afternoon, but somebody doesn't like that noise happening, and this becomes a Saturday afternoon complaint. So I don't know if we're going to do anything at all. It seems like you have to really be clear on dates and, or I should say, days of the week and times of the day, and whether someone in close proximity has a property right next to them, that it's interrupting their quality of life, their sleep, their sleep schedules and things like that. I really don't know. I think one of the problems about doing this at all as a county regulation is it's incredibly difficult to apply to all the various situations that will happen. And like you've mentioned a couple of counties, which I'm surprised I didn't know about this, but that have something in place. But I was told years ago, maybe these are fairly new situations here, but I was told years ago that no county in Kansas actually has a sound ordinance. I've always believed that. So
Yeah, and to your point, Commissioner, only Atchison County is what I could find that has a county-wise noise ordinance. Others use it selectively in a kind of similar manner to what we have right now to an extent. Like for fireworks, dog barking, Shawnee, Johnson County, specific provisions specific to entertainment establishments and commercial uses. They don't use decibels there, I don't believe, from the top of my head. I think they also use the reasonableness approach otherwise, but it wasn't a county-specific item. A lot of the counties, for the most part, don't seem to actively enforce in the unincorporated area, or not enforce, don't go after creation of the noise ordinances under unincorporated area. It's more of a creature of a municipality, a city where the population is more dense.
I'll just wrap up comments. I guess I'll just say in my former life, I spent 26 years doing flight testing, and a lot of that was about noise measuring, both in flight, runway testing, all kinds of things. And so environmental testing, and I had NIST certified traceable measurement devices, and the science was extremely well defined. The analysis of how to interpret those data points was absolutely clarified. So I look at this from a very objective point of view. To me, if you're going to have something, I think the objective way to go, again, I'm not asking for us to police it. I'm asking if there's going to be something at all to set it up so there's parameters whereby civil litigation could happen on both on either side of the argument, whether it was exceeded or not exceeded. And I would tell you that this type of equipment absolutely has to be set up correctly. The setup has to be recorded, there's a very simple way to test it to make sure it's actually accurate. And those standards could be sent off every 6 months to a year to have them certified as well. So there's traceability, and it does require training, but to do this. And so this will not be something just for any sheriff or any MABCD person to just get this out of the trunk and use it. It would not be objective enough. And so to make this objective, it is truly a science, but it can be done. And I'm not saying I want to get involved in that, but I'm saying if we had a standard and people thought it was a problem, they could seek a remedy by getting the objective measurement and go to court. Just a thought.
Thank you very much. Some of the issues that I'm getting calls, emails, text about are areas that it's like a subdivision, but it's never been annexed into the city, never been annexed into Derby, never been annexed into Mulvane. And some of it's, the loud music. A lot of it is guns firing in the middle of the night, Tannerite going off on Sunday morning. I guess, a lot of people move out to the country because they want the freedom to be able to fire guns, do that. A lot of people move out to the country because they want the peace and quiet. So I don't know if this is a population density issue or, but specifically, do we have any shot spotter technology out in the county? And I don't know how far that goes and if that's something we ever even want to look at or what we do with it.
I think no. Sheriff's here, so no, we do not.
Well, thanks for the presentation, but I think I picked up that Commissioner Howell is not really willing. I am not willing to get into litigating and controlling this. Where I'm at in my district, there's too much that goes on from good people. I know there's some bad apples too, but there's a lot of noise that just butts up right to the city. Sure, 4th of July, you know. I'd hate for us to think that like the Blue Angels make too much noise as they go across the neighborhood. And I'm just like, I don't want to touch it. And I do appreciate that citizens would need to take full responsibility of the like we saw with our recent case on a violation of with the trees, and the citizens were very involved in that, and that kind of helped the case. But I just say that thank you for the reasonableness explanation. That was an added factor, but I'm not for getting into this.
Well, a lot of these, and it was referenced, a lot of these complaints come with event centers. In my time, 2.5 years, anytime we've entertained any sort of zoning action on event centers, we've considered noise and times and protective overlays. And it seems as if that has been a reasonable approach, no pun intended, as to trying to manage noise out in the unincorporated part of the county. Are there event centers that are operating today in Sedgwick County unincorporated part that do not have any protective overlays on times and things of that sort? Are those ones we're running into with challenges? I know District 2 has one that's a flagrant violator of some noise problems. And Justin, do you know, is that?
Chairman, I think we have kind of a combination of things in the unincorporated area. I think you have some event centers that maybe don't have specific requirements like you're talking about, some that do. I think they've been handled somewhat on a case by case basis, which I think was part of the reason the board kind of wanted
Sure.
planning to look into this more. But we also have one of the bigger concerns I've heard more recently, I think in the last handful of years, is properties that don't have any zoning approval that are operating as event centers, essentially
Right.
contrary to our zoning codes. And so those are, regardless of what you do in the zoning code with the approved event centers, those are operating outside of those confines anyway.
Are there retro opportunities to go back and put protective overlays of sorts or some sort of guidance on how event centers?
You want to be careful on that because you
Okay.
do run into situations where there can be some property use rights at issue. But I do think if you do it, it should be more of probably a county-wide approach would be
Okay.
advisable, whether it would be through a noise resolution or what, as the board's already considered, I know the planning commission has looked at some updated regulations in those regards. But there are certain enforcement challenges I know we've talked about before.
Oh, yeah.
In staff meeting, 1 or 2 staff meetings for properties and how it can be challenging, at 1 or 2 a.m. for enforcement to occur and the unincorporated.
I do know these things creep up. It doesn't seem to be I don't get a whole lot of complaints in my district. And of course, I live in unincorporated Sedgwick County and like the liberty of doing what I want out there. So I do like the idea, and I appreciate you mentioning that there are civil actions outside of resolutions that can take place if a neighbor has a problem. There are some civil pursuits there. So I think my mind kind of leans towards allowing that to just continue as is. So,
And if I'm,
go ahead,
if I
go
may
ahead.
add just one more thing, just to follow up on Justin's comment, for the properties that operate as these entertainment establishments without proper zoning period, we don't need a noise resolution to enforce it. We have UCC violations provided in Section 8, subsection D4 of our zoning code, and any complaints with respect to property that is not properly zoned have these activities going on, a concerned citizen, a neighbor, complaining party can make a report to MABCD if they recorded something on video and audio, provide additional witness statements to MABCD that can be investigated and prosecuted accordingly without the necessity to create a noise ordinance.
Okay. Appreciate that. Commissioner Bluebell.
Thank you, Chairman. Tom, I'd like to ask staff, I've got 2 specific issues that I'm dealing with in my district. Rather than try to push for some overall changing of the rules for the whole county, would maybe staff help me broker a couple meetings just with a few representatives from the neighborhood and a couple of people from, that they think are affecting noise, and just maybe try to get some peaceable agreement with the neighbors and just try to work something out.
Yeah.
Just-
I think we can. You'd involve a code component of that, a legal component, and probably a sheriff component. We can sit down and talk about
Like, could we throw out maybe some civil options to a couple of them too, and let them know what you can do on your own?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Oh,
This
Commissioner.
one. Outside of the event centers that maybe we're getting these complaints on, how many calls are we getting for noise complaints within the county? Are we trying to solve a big problem or a very specific problem?
For that, I would have to defer to MABCD and the sheriff's office, as I do not have this data in the moment, but I can also obtain it if and do a follow-up, Commissioner.
Well, it sounds like many of us have the same thoughts, and I like Commissioner Bluebaw's last question of maybe just brokering these specific issues he has in his district. I don't have any of these come up, so I'm trying to keep an open mind with some of the other comments, but I guess I'm just wondering if we have a big issue on our hands because I'm not hearing anything, or if we just need to address some specific issues or conversations. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Okay. Appreciate it. I'm on.
Virgin.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, the next topic is, Sheriff, thanks for coming, Ben. Thank you. Susan, you're up. Talk about solid waste operations.
Hello, Susan. Welcome back.
Long time no see. Soon as this gets pulled up, from the meeting a week ago, questions were asked about the programs that we offer. So look at the solid waste programs. First, just a quick list is the solid waste plan, inspecting facilities, public education, household hazardous waste facility and remote collection events, electronic waste tire collection events, bulky waste coupons, illegal dumping forms for townships, cleaning up illegal dump sites as requested, working with MABCD on cleanup of properties, township neighborhood cleanups, Christmas tree recycling, medical waste drop-offs, storm debris, and a proposed mattress coupon for the first time this fall as a pilot project. So I'm going to go into those in a little more detail. Solid waste plan is a regulation required by KDHE. They require the initial plan development and an annual updates afterwards, and every 5 years a more in-depth study. The Solid Waste Committee is required by KDHE, and they require certain specific positions on that committee, and all of the appointments are by the Board of County Commissioners. The committee makes recommendations to you. They review and approve grants as they come to the county, and they review recommendations on solid waste permits, whether it's permitting a construction and demolition landfill or a transfer station or a recycling facility. KDHE requires a permit. It conforms with our solid waste plan, and that's what the review is about. And it was asked last week about who's on the committee. So here's a table showing we have 2 cities of the first class. So we have member appointed by Wichita and by the city of Derby. Then representatives from the second and third class cities, the unincorporated area, general public, citizen organizations, private industries, the only one that's blank. We don't have someone on that site yet. Private solid waste industry, recycling, county recycling coordinator, and then individuals from each commissioner. So you can see it's a rather large committee that I work with. Nothing like the 30 when, 22 years ago. This is much more manageable. I'd like to start with showing a map of 3 of our programs. Christmas tree recycling are the red sites. We have 22 sites that we let people come and bring Christmas trees. We work with the cities, the parks departments, or sometimes it could be a church where the site's located. The green spots are the MedSafe, where we have at police stations, it looks like a mailbox, but it's for medical drop-offs, which can take controlled substances. We take medications at the household hazardous waste facility, but cannot be controlled. So no morphines or any drugs like that. If you have to sign for it at the pharmacy, we can't take it. Then the blue dots are all of the townships we have worked with, and there's 23 townships we've been working with out of the 26 on. Some of them have like a neighborhood cleanup program, but we also work with them on illegally dumped material where they provide the labor and we provide the cost of disposing of the material through the solid waste fee. So looking at the Christmas tree program, I mentioned there's 22 sites, 10 of those are within the city of Wichita. The trees are mulched for free collection. I work with Sedgwick County Parks Department, who has more time in the winter than in the summer, and they have a small mulcher that they take to the sites, mulch the material. I can tell you that people are constantly calling us during this time period to ask us, is the mulch available yet and where? Because they want the mulch for their gardens. And from 2001, when we started this, through January of this year, we have received over 128,000 trees. So that's quite a few. It varies year to year on how many. Now more people might be going for artificial trees, but we've mulched a lot of trees. Why is it important? It saves landfill space. It's free mulch, which improves soil. And that's why the people keep calling us and wanting the mulch. And the Parks Department can pull full trees. They're often used to put in small lakes or ponds for a fish habitat. The small fish go in between the limbs, and it's good for that purpose. MedSafe disposal, we'll have at the 7 cities listed up there. When the MedSafe becomes full, they call us. Catherine with my staff goes out and replaces it by taking a mailing box, is sealed in front of the police, and the police call to have it picked up and sent to the facility. And then we put in a new box and liner, and it's ready to go. Some of these fill up very quickly, and others it takes a while. So you can see the cities that we represent there. Why is this important? The percentage of child poisoning deaths have increased from 36% to 64% nationally. More kids are getting into the drugs at home, and this gives an outlet for people to safely dispose of the drugs, and safely is not flushing it down the toilet. It gets into the water streams. There have been studies in Colorado where they've studied the fish in the rivers, and there are a lot of fish with male and female organs in them due to the amount of hormones being flushed down the toilet. So there have been a lot of fish studies being impacted by the medications that people throw away. Township illegal dumping, over 2 million pounds of illegal dumped material since we started this program has been disposed of properly. And so they go along, they find where people have dumped bags or refrigerators or chairs, other material. You can see the sign on the bottom right. We also provide no dumping signs for them where, you know, they have a spot, they can put it out. We have a camera we've offered to put up in a tree if there's one nearby that we can take photos of licenses. So it's important because it's harmful, it pollutes. If there's liquids in there, it can get in the soil and in the groundwater in the area. It hurts the natural habitat in the area. It can be a great environment for rodents and other animals to live. So it's important to find this and dispose of it. So the township has the labor, we have the cost, and it's a good partnership with the townships throughout the county. We will also work with MABCD, where they have properties that neighbors have complained about. There's a lot of trash or junk out there. We're concerned. We see rodents running around. We need it cleaned up. MABC works with the landowner and they say, well, we can't afford it, but we have, some neighbors who help us clean it up. We'll pay for the dumpster to go out there. And they, again, provide the labor. We provide the disposal. And there's a before photo there on the left and after on the right. We've worked with Department of Aging on hoarding cases where multiple dumpsters are needed to help clean up the property. So it's, again, working with other county departments to help the environment. We have a proposed pilot project for mattress coupons this fall. And you can see mattresses have been dumped along the road. And you think, well, it's an illegal dumping problem. It can be a road hazard. Animals can live among the mattresses. And frankly, then government has to go out there and clean it up, which costs the government, whether it's a county road, city road, or township road. We have to pay for it. Looking at one of the reasons for an increase, Brooks Construction and Demolition Landfill used to be $10 each for a mattress or a box spring. Now it's $20 each. And that's who we're working with for the coupon program this fall. Like I said, it's a pilot project. We want to see how it works. It was recommended by the Solid Waste Committee. CDR North is a North C&D landfill. They charge $50 each for box springs, $30 for mattresses. The transfer station, $26.25 each. Mattress Firm was $50 a set. We were calling everyone since last week to determine how the prices have changed. We could get no answer from Mattress Firm, so I have no idea how much they're charging now, but I bet it's more than $50. Denver Mattress, $99 for a set. Mattress Hub, $175 special going on right now. So if you need to get rid of it, right now is their chance.
Well, you called the sales guy, didn't you? There's always a special at a mattress store.
There we go.
I'll cease comment.
Crazy J used to charge, but now they do not take mattresses away. If you buy them, you're stuck with the old mattress. And they told us the reason for that is bed bugs. One place they took them had bed bugs and put them in their truck, and it spread to all of the mattresses in their truck. Therefore, the whole load was trash. So online, of course, a lot of people buy things online now, and yeah, they don't take your old one when Amazon shows up with your new mattress. So you have to find a way to get rid of it. And a lot of people obviously have the method to move it, but they don't want to pay for disposal, so they dump it along roads, mainly out in the townships. Changing gears, household hazardous waste facility. Many household chemicals are poisonous, can be toxic. Antifreeze, spill it on a drive and an animal licks it up, that can kill it. Your dog, and it's kind of sweet tasting, so the animals will eat it. Bleach, antifreeze, pesticides, detergents. If you have those products in your house and you're not using it, you can get rid of it for free at the HHW facility, and it will be recycled or disposed of properly. Upper right picture is a bottle of mercury that was brought to our facility. Grandpa died, and it was found in the basement. The bottom right is a vape pen. We have to do special packaging for those because of the tobacco oil in some of them, but the lithium ion batteries catch fire easily. And so we have to separate them from each other in the packaging. In 2024, we had over 15,000 people bring in over 1 million pounds of hazardous waste to our facility. Of that, 207,000 were reclaimed by over 8,800 people at the swap and shop. Now, that saved us over $47,000 that our contractor would have charged for those products by letting people pick them up for free. So the public wins, we win. And it was closed for 4 months last year because of the expansion going on. So we actually make more money a year. August, we started recycling plastic and recycling metal. And we also always recycle motor oil, lead acid batteries, and rechargeable batteries. So all of that is happening. That lowers the amount of money that we have to pay the contractor to dispose of material, and is properly recycled. And right now, recently, we took like 2,000 pounds of lead acid batteries for battery recycling, and about 300 pounds of lithium ion. And what we do is say, okay, don't give us the money for the batteries right now. Use that to pay for the lithium, and it normally balances out. No, this past time we had to pay for the lithium. The charges keep going up monthly on how much it costs to get rid of lithium batteries. Here's a look from 2002 when the facility started. Did it every other year thing, so there's not so cluttered with dots. You can see how it raised up for the number of customers, dropped right here. That's COVID, and we're returning from COVID. The green line is the swap and shop of people coming in for the swap and shop. And while it's been closed, people show up, they walk through the construction site, even though we have signs saying it's closed, and they really want that opened again. And the red one is conditionally exempt small quantity generators, businesses we work with. They come in, we charge them our exact charge that is going to cost us to get rid of the material. So they say if they call someone else, sometimes they come in and say, oh, I don't know about that. Let me check around. They're back the next day with the material. Because of all volume, we have better pricing. And looking at the volume of material, you can see COVID right there, just under 1,800,000 pounds in 1 year. So even though we had less customers, boy, did they load those pickup trucks and trailers as they came in. Since 2002, we've collected over 24 million pounds of chemicals dropped off at our site and over 4 million have been collected through the swap and shop. This shows you where we've had remote collection events. As the commissioners know, we try to have a remote collection event every year in your district, work with you on the locations. Sometimes the one location works wonderful and we keep going back each year, especially with companies that will help out. But you can see the spread here of where the remotes have taken place. 99 events since 2005 when we started this. Over 20,000 customers have dropped off over 2,800,000 pounds at these remote collection events. So they're pretty well received. Unfortunately, people show up to them as we mentioned the facility. They don't even know the facility exists. So that's why later I'll talk about education's important. We need to spread the word. Waste tire events. Why is it important? One, you see on the upper right, an ad about mosquito condos. They hold water, which is great for the mosquitoes and laying eggs and having more mosquitoes. Whole tires are banned from Kansas landfills. You cannot throw one away. And the reason for that is when the equipment goes over the top of the landfill trying to compress stuff, a tire will slowly bounce its way back up to the surface and pop out on top. So if you do take tires to a landfill, they want them either the sidewall cut out so they can't bounce, or you quarter them or half them so they won't have that bouncing motion. But that's the reason they're banned. You have illegal dumping of tires, road hazards. I remember one of our tire events, a sheriff's officer showed up wanting to look at the trailers as people came in and make sure they were secured properly, because he recently had handled a case where a woman was killed from driving her car along the highway and hit a tire and her car flipped and killed her. So he was very much, road hazards are a problem. We need to get rid of the tires. Mention the mosquitoes. They're a nuisance and an eyesore. Looking at our events, the most recent event we had, 2,340 vehicles. Don't know the number of tires yet. They're still collecting them from the West Yard where we held the event. And you can see the numbers over time. So in all, we've collected, and the reason this is in red, that number is going to go up. 1,336,000 tires equivalents. And people have a hard time understanding what we mean by that. Look at the huge tire here, which is different than the huge tire under it, and passenger tires. This may make up about 10 passenger tires or more. They do it by weight. So the common thing is to convert everything by weight to how many passenger tires that would be. So someone could bring in 4 huge tires, and it's only 4, but it counts for a lot of passenger tires. Electronic waste collection events, they expect e-scrap to increase to 40 million metric tons globally. 80% of the bulk of electronics is iron, aluminum, glass, and plastic. And you have then 20% could be important gold, silver, copper, platinum, that instead of mining for it, which uses more energy and more water, recycling saves energy and water and saves the material. You also have lead and mercury and barium, cadmium, lithium, nickel, palladium, rubidium, and silver are in electronic waste. And this table shows you what of these can cause birth defects, brain damage, heart, liver, lung, and spleen damage, kidney, nervous system, and I can't even read skeletal system damage. So all of those are in different types of electronics that are out there. And those are what we collect. The company who keeps getting our bid is in Wisconsin. They recycle 100%. Nothing goes overseas. They're a zero waste company. Nothing goes to a landfill. And here's a picture from our first e-waste event. Look at the huge TVs we were getting, the old monitors. You can imagine those weighed a lot, and people lined up on 135. We were up at the Coliseum Pavilion. Traffic backed up from 85th Street to beyond 53rd Street of people coming to that event. So why is all of this important besides the health risk of just illegal dumping material? Businesses that accepted electronics increased prices. Found out that a county employee within the last 2 weeks went to Best Buy with 2 small computer monitors. They wanted $40 each for them. He said, I'm going to save it for your event. So that can be expensive. People illegal dump because they don't want to pay for it. It can't really fit in your trash can. You can call your trash hauler and get an estimate on how much extra they would charge you to take some of these things. Citizen input, we have calls year round about when you're having your next e-waste event. We had e-waste show up at the tire event, and we'll have tire show up at the e-waste event. And ever evolving electronics. And what I mean by that is over time, televisions have changed from big cabinets to something you hang on your wall. Up here, monitors for computers have changed to flat screens from big ones like I showed you from our first event. And mobile phones from the brick that people carried around to smaller and smaller. And when you look at the more recent ones, how many commercials do you see where a new iPhone's coming out 2 or 3 times a year? And some people just have to have the best and latest. And what do they do with all of the old ones? Okay, we see them come to our event. Electronic waste events, you can see we've collected in pounds over 2,800,000 over from just under 18,000 vehicles. And when we had our last one, we worked with communications. We advertised in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. And you can see from the Facebook reports, dropped off electronics. It was easy peasy, great directions. Don't even get out of your car, drop and go, 10 out of 10. Thanks for doing this. It was well organized, lots of helped signage quickly. And this one was thanking Sedgwick County to sponsor the event. Again, we have calls all year long. People pay a lot of money for electronics. I think they want to know it was handled properly and hard drives, information destroyed, and not just throw it away in a dump. Speaking of dumps, bulky waste program, we have coupons that are good up to 1,000 pounds for free disposal at the transfer station. We offer 3,000 or 4,000 coupons a year. People sign up online and it's mailed out to them. And then, you know, these big items that won't fit in your trash can be hauled off, get a neighbor with a pickup, and it's free disposal. We've offered over 76,000 coupons over the years, and people brought in over 36 million pounds of material to the transfer station. Why is it important? Again, illegal dumping, harbor animals, and this bulky waste is a way that clean up along the roadside. Storm debris, old way is the upper right photo where you just put debris on the surface and burned it. A lot of smoke goes up in the air, a lot of ash material. We have a tub grinder that we can use move it out to cities, which we have done to help grind up the tree waste, whether it's a tornado, ice storm, windstorm, you have branches fall down. This is a way to help. And bottom right photo is our air curtain burner, where you dig a trench. It's blowing air in there that's circulating. You can see hardly any smoke come out versus what you see up here. And we have to measure the amount of smoke coming out, be trained in doing that, and report to the state every year how the burner's doing. Education, we have tours of our household hazardous waste facility. We go out to schools and other training. It could be Botanica for Earth Day or the zoo or others where they have a whole bunch of people coming in to talk about different things. Outreach program. What we have on the right in this example of we're working with the communications department on tear-off pads, and it was about 1/4 the size of an 8.5 by 11 to put on counters of Sherwin-Williams, Porter Paint, Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, big stores where they mix paint. Where you have leftover paint, take this, and it has information on where you can take it for free. We're doing the same thing for drugs and for automobile oils, gas, used oil, all of that. Thinners, we're going to work with that as well with the auto shops. So getting the word out. And we've done that through handouts, billboard for events, and the presentations I mentioned, and our website. Solid waste projects, again, I was hitting the highlights on some of the main ones that we do. You can see over time on this graph how many years we've offered it, how many users for that many years, how many pounds of materials collected. Tires, we're still waiting. That number will go up when they finish collecting the tires from our last event. So over 855,000, almost 856,000 users with over 109 million pounds of material through these programs have been properly recycled or disposed of. And just FYI, the latest we have seen for the population of Sedgwick County is 528,000. And our budget is 0.5% of the overall 25 budget from last year. Of that, 94.7% is the solid waste fee, which is dedicated. It can only be used for these programs. And 5.3% general fund, which is the general fund part 0.02% of the county budget. Most of the budgets here. Now, looking at this also, I put down the costs. And for household hazardous waste, I just put down the entire cost of their cost center budget because of the variety of things they do. So you can see what the cost is for different events. All programs are paid through the dedicated solid waste fee, but we also make money. Metal recycling that we only started in August of last year made $209, but we've calculated how much it saves from the weight and the space in the dumpsters. When a company comes in and picks up the dumpster, that's $200 just for them picking it up. It's $100 to drop off an empty dumpster, and then they charge you for the weight inside. So you got to take into fact, if you're not putting things in the dumpster, you're saving money. Same with plastic. How much we've recycled saves money. The small quantity generators we worked with brought in this. And remember, these are just numbers for 2004. $16,000 was brought in. Paint cells, the 5-gallon drum buckets we sell for $25 each that we mix up from the paints that are dropped off. Battery cells over 3,000. Swap and shop saved over 47,000. And so the total there is 81,900. And the one thing about the swap and shop, it would have saved more if it had been open the whole year, but it was closed because of construction. We get $57,000 from facility permits, the transfer station, construction and demolition landfills. We get 32 cents a ton for what goes to the transfer station. So we made over 126,000 there. We license the waste haulers, so we get money there from the company, and per truck is very little. It's like a bucket truck. And so it's minimal to give them a sticker to prove that they have registered with us. And we also get information from them on number of customers for trash and recycling. So that's 183, combine it with the other, 265,000 comes in from our programs, and the rest of it's paid for by the fee. So I try to go through that quickly for you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very elaborate presentation. Appreciate it. Okay. Commissioner Meister.
Yep. Thanks again. I know you do this in various forms every year. Good stuff. Hey, one thing that I really took notice was I thought when you talked about with the townships, you guys working, I love the fact that I didn't know that we're doing a lot of these no dumping signs.
Mhm.
Like it says, call 911, penalties up to $1,000. Is that true?
Actually, Commissioner McGinn and I met with judges and sheriff's department.
Okay.
So by my mentioning her name, you know, this was some time ago, and we got the fine raised to $1,000.
Well, I think that's good. I've had a recent surge in the last year or so. I think those signs are, so if.
And we
township
tell the
person calls me
townships.
or citizen, I can just say, get in touch and we'll try to get some signs out.
Just they call us and they have to provide the post, we provide the sign.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Hunt?
Chairman, just curiously, do you have any history on how many people have been charged with that illegal dumping and have paid fines in the last, each year? Is that data available?
No, I don't, but I can check into that for you.
Good. Do we have any idea how many mattresses we're picking up on gravel roads or parking lots?
No, but we did a survey of the townships a few years back, and I don't know if I have that with me, but I can get a number. I can have a table of what the townships say they have collected over a period of time, so I can get that table to all of you.
How many of the mattress coupons do you envision making available?
Well, going to offer 3,000 this fall, and it's only good for 2 items. Could be 1 mattress, 1 box springs, 2 box springs, 2 mattresses, but 2 items going to Brooks Construction and Demolition Landfill owned by City of Wichita. So we've worked it out with them that they'll accept the coupon and send us the bill.
So just quick math, it's $120,000 potentially just for mattresses a year.
Mhm. If they use it. And that's been a problem with coupons all along. People say, oh, a coupon. I may have a use for this, and they order it and get it sent to them, and then they sit on it and there's an expiration date and they never use it.
Okay.
So if they all use it, you're right.
And that would be, again, for every mattress is dropped off, it takes 5 households to pay for that 1 mattress. So you drop off a pair, that's 10 households to pay for the 2 mattresses in terms of solid waste fee.
Mhm.
Again, I would just question, I guess, if they don't have a financial inability to do this on their own, then I guess to me, this is almost encouraging them to look at like this is a free service, but reality, it's not free. Someone else is
No.
paying for it.
It's
So I would say if there was an income affidavit or qualification that says, you're claiming you don't have the funds to do this, it might be something I'd be more interested in. But I have a feeling a lot of folks that will take these coupons, frankly, just want to save $20 or $40 because it's viewed as a free service, and they have the capability of doing this on their own, and they would not have dumped it on a county road. They would not have dumped it in a parking lot. They would have just taken care of it. So by doing this way, I think there's going to be a lot of folks that will choose to do the free service, whereas they would have just taken care of it. And for those folks that will drop a mattress on a county road, I'm not sure they're going to go through the trouble of getting a coupon and doing this the right way. So I don't know how much effect this will have on what we see in county roads and parking lots.
well, that's why it's a pilot program and we're trying it out. See how many do take advantage of it and work with the townships and what they're seeing dropped in their roads.
Just, I talked with the city of Derby just yesterday. They have a tree limb
Mhm.
collection site that they have year round, and some other cities have those as well. The county doesn't have anything like that. And again, I think one of the things that I would like to see not go to the landfill is tree limbs, because they're very easily processed and become usable for other things. And so we don't typically use our resources unless there's a storm event. That's the only time we really activate that stuff.
Mhm.
Am I right?
Yes.
So most of the time, it just sits there waiting for an event to happen. And I
Now,
can't think of how maybe in a standard year, we don't even use it at all most of the time.
we have taken the tub grinder to the city of Derby for the exact area you're talking about where they received all the tree limbs because they were overwhelmed and couldn't handle it. And so they called us and we took the tub grinder down there to grind all of the limbs they had been collecting. We've done that in Valley Center. We've gone out to Goddard. So we've gone to different communities with the tub grinder. We made sure it was portable when we bought it, just so we could help around the county.
And again, I like that. That's great. I was just going to say, though, it seems like, look at the history of all those events. We're looking at maybe one event every 2 or 3 years. We might do something with that, but most of the time it just sits there. So one of the things we could do if we wanted to do something like that would be create a space for, like Derby has. That's, again, one of the things I don't like about some of these programs is because you have to save up your stuff until the event happens. Tree limbs, of course, there's no scheduled event, so they just throw them into dumpsters and it goes to the landfill. But for other things like mattresses, mattresses are maybe an exception because it's a coupon based thing, which again, I'm concerned about people getting the coupons that frankly don't have a problem. They can take care of this on their own. But for the tires and electronic waste, especially the tires, I think people are storing those in their backyards or whatever until that event happens. It looks like the last 5 times we've done this, it's been in every other year. And prior to that, we did it. It was a 7-year gap and 2 4-year gaps.
The very first one was paid for by KDHE grant. And So we had that, and we actually had it at the North County Yard and the West Yard for a longer period of time since the grant paid for it. And after that, we didn't have it till we kept getting calls from citizens, and the commissioners got calls, when are you going to have another tire event? And that's when we started doing it again.
And again, I think that for a lot of people, they say, well, I think these tires may have a little bit of wear left on them still. I'm not sure I'm willing to give them up yet.
Mhm.
Or maybe they just want to, they know they can get them, taken care of for free, so they might save them back. I still feel like, I know we can't probably prove this, but I still feel like the majority of those tires that come in are still traceable to businesses. I know that we attempt not to let that happen, but there's tell, if you look at the way that the tires are coming in, it's kind of obvious this is businesses that are doing this. So again, I don't know if we have a way to prove it, but
Yeah.
again, these fees are taking care of a problem, but the problem actually is created by us because we're encouraging them to store tires for 2 years and bring them in unless someone else pay for it. And again, I don't think most of those tires would end up in a county road. Those people who are willing to throw a tire on the side of a county road probably aren't going to wait for this event. So once again, I don't know that this is necessarily changing behavior other than it's allowing businesses to use this as a way to make a little bit more money. And I don't know if I like that.
I can't argue with the fact that any service like that the county provides, you have some bad actors who will take advantage of, oh, I don't have enough money, I need the free food, I need this free service or that, can't pay for a doctor. You're right, but besides asking them, is this from a business, and then calling them a liar, if I just happen to think they are, going to go with what they tell me and let them come in. And that's what we did this past time, no businesses.
And for someone else who's again kept some tires back, they weren't sure they want to get rid of them yet, then they make a decision later on to get rid of the tire. I assume you could take those tires to any place that does tire businesses, and you could pay a fee at that
Right.
point to get rid of them.
That's right.
All across the county. So again, there's
And the reason
for
they-
responsible people, they do have an option.
Right. And the reason the state even has a grant program for tires is because statewide there's an issue with illegally dumped tires. And once a tire pile catches on fire, it's horrible. You can't put it out easily. It's really nasty. And so that's why KDHE even has grant money for that. They're trying to stop people from storing it and get rid of it properly.
I'll make 2 more points. I'll try to stop talking. I have been an advocate of doing, if we're going to do a service like this, to do it year round rather than having people store this up. So I think the electronics waste is really about the lithium batteries primarily. We take lithium batteries 24, or I should say, when the HHW is open, they'll take lithium batteries or whatever device they happen to be in year round. So the electronics waste is really not about that. Electronics waste is about everything but that. And again, the consumer electronics have gotten smaller. There's a lot of plastic in them, and there are places around town that will accept electronic waste. If we are going to do an event like that, I wish we would. Some people really just want to see things, they really believe in environmental protection stuff, and they want to see something recycled they view might be, have value and may not, and may harm the ground or something. So they're willing to pay money. They just need to know where to take it, and they're even willing to pay to have it processed. So one thing when we do our electronics waste, we advertise it's free. I think we ought to find places who are willing to take electronic waste other times and encourage them to do it whenever they're ready. But if we are going to have an event, I really think we ought to at least encourage or allow for people to pay for the service if that's what they want to do. A lot of people who are interested in recycling are glad to pay for the cost of having it processed. And so I brought this up every year, and I think that we ought to allow or find a way for people to donate funding to pay for the cost of the processing. And then I've been an advocate, if we are going to do something like a tire roundup, I wish it, rather than it being every other year, if we're going to do it at all, it should be, I'll find a way to do this that's a continuous process, rather than making people save it up for years and then deal with it after a while. And the way I've talked about doing that would be that the county would stand up, if you will, a recycling processing center, if you will, for these types of devices. And again, I think there's a model a financial model that actually would require CIP to get it started. But I think it is, if you look at the long term, let's say a 10-year window, I think it is something we could do if we wanted to do so.
Well, I'd be happy to work with facilities or anyone else on looking at a facility and what it would cost for just tires or more than that.
I would say tree limbs, bulky furniture. That would include mattresses and tires and again, probably electronic waste. And so it'd be all of those types of things that we don't want to see them go to the landfill. They have, if you grind up tires, they become a commodity.
Mhm.
Electronic waste actually can be a commodity if you shred it.
Right.
And so I think that and again, I think people are willing to support these services if it's reasonable. And I know it's an investment to get started, but we didn't have to do any of this. None of this I think most of this is not required. We do it because it's a good idea. And people like to have a place to take their paint. And
Mhm.
I think they like to participate in that, but it's something we do because it's a good idea. And
Well, as I said, the Solid Waste Committee makes a recommendation and the county commissioners approve it. So all of these programs have been recommended by the committee, then approved by the commission through time. I'm not saying this specific body, I'm saying since 2002.
Susan, thank you for the presentation. I think as we look at what the solid waste fees are going towards, we always have to measure community benefit. Like, what is the community benefit for these things and the role of government in these spaces? And my mind even goes towards, we have a revenue source here. What other municipalities, what are they doing in environmental work that could be done with this revenue source at the county? I don't want to dig into that today, but I know City of Wichita does environmental health. We do environmental resources. Who knows what KDHE does most days?
Yeah.
But I just think that there's a real opportunity here to measure community benefit, and we have a revenue source and a fee, and there's good things happening. My mind goes towards, we're looking at vocational opportunities over at the MAC, and how can we employ some of these people with revenue generating programs, with recycling programs and things like that. I mean, there's just, I think there's a whole host of things that you could explore. We want to limit what government is doing in some of these spaces, but this is certainly community benefit, and they're very, very popular in my district, So,
Well, and even the mattress coupons, when it goes to the C&D landfill, they have a contract with a company to haul it up to the Hutchinson detention facility where the prisoners tear the fabric off, fluff,
Yeah.
the metal, the wood, to recycle everything.
yeah, 97% of the mattress is recyclable. So
I know yours goes up there too.
we recycle about 40 a week. So, okay. This is good information. Any other questions? Commissioner Blubo?
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm excited about this pilot program. Worked numerous neighborhood cleanups in Southwest Wichita, and I've seen how people will bring the tires out, as Commissioner House said, but otherwise they just sit there in their yard. We had a tire guy, we had a metal guy, we had a bicycle guy. We tried to work as much as we could through those neighborhood cleanups, but I know that those tires, those things in those backyards would just continue to set in those back tires. They just need a small incentive, something that, gets them, hey, this is an opportunity. A lot of times, I don't know that people, really know where to drop them off, or you just got to make it convenient for folks. And I would much rather see this than I would county staff going out there and we call them and say, hey, there's another mattress out there on South Hoover Road, or a handful of tires. I really think this drives the right behavior to try to give people the opportunity to make the responsible choice. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay. This is on the agenda. What is on the agenda tomorrow? It's the fees the fees and the programs. Is that correct? Okay.
Fee and the solid waste plan.
The plan.
So you'll receive some of this information tomorrow, but
Right. Sure.
not all of it.
Good for the public to understand. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? That's it. Okay. See you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., 9 a.m. 9 a.m. Yeah, 9 a.m.